Behind the Middle Belt killings is Caliphate ethnic cleansing. Behind Niger Delta agitation is Caliphate seizure of oil and gas. Behind Biafra and Odua agitation, Caliphate imposed unitary Nigeria. Behind the Caliphate itself is the rogue 1999 Constitution. Elections 2023 is Caliphate's push to retain the 1999 fraud. Nigerians, say no to any further election in the country. Let's take down the 1999 Constitution and save our people and our land.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's joint NINAS Townhall session. We're excited to have you here today. Today's topic is defining the change we seek, personnel or structure. In the next 20 minutes, we'll be listening to two NINAS broadcasts entitled State Capture and Corrupt Containment of Resistance, Recipe for Unled Revolution. And the second one is Drawing the Battle Line Against the Fraud of 99 and its Enforcers. Thank you for listening.
As people continue to scratch their heads around the country, why is everybody paralyzed? Everybody thought that everywhere will be boiling when certain things happen. Nothing will happen in the manner, except something else is first done to remove the paralysis. And that's part of why this broadcast of now, that we finally have a group of hardened brigands who are added at containment. That containment, like we had Labour Party Vice Presidential candidate talk about, that containment begins with killing those who are going to make trouble. Nigeria does a lot of it. That containment includes bribing those who are going to make trouble, those who may say no. That containment includes, intimidating, display of skeleton, and all such. But down to specifics. A few decades ago, in fact, when the soldiers were still in power in Nigeria, pointing guns at everybody, there was the students' union. The students' union was a resistance, a point of resistance, and because the academic environment, there was the ASU. Their teachers were active because they are the intellectual, powerhouse of the society. They are the ones who know better than the rest of society because of being in the academy. They are in this information superhighway. They get to know what is happening around the world more than other people. And so it flows down to students who then become vigilant. And once there's a government policy that might affect the people negatively, between the students, their teachers will first speak it out, and then the students will organize a shutdown to challenge the government. In the immediate aftermath of independence, there was some attempt to put a military base. I think it was the UK, Anglo, whatever, joint Anglo Nigeria. They wanted to establish a military base in Nigeria, and it was the students' country. It was the Nigerian students that led the charge to say, no, you can't say we're independent and you come and mount this type of thing we've seen in the West African and Soviet Union, where the military bases of France will be reason those countries don't actually have any independence, because they enforce their own views, economic and otherwise, social views. And so the students' union network, the students' union movement, the government, as a part of containment designs, infiltrated and neutralized them. Now they hold their elections at Eagle Square. the president of student union, that's as a country right now, will have a special assistance. The other day I was in traffic and I saw a Range Rover, a black Range Rover. A student union, that's apparently it was the president of the current president. Student union officials are now cruising around like ministers because the government now have them in his pocket. Just pay money to them and make sure politicians use them to rig elections because they are all deployed. But they are not available now to think on behalf of their parents and the people. That's for students. The ASU that goes crying for salary from time to time, they cornered them into electoral duties. And so the professors look forward to elections where they are sent around to go and do things that can become 5 billion, 10 billion to be shared by those who have to be installed in power. And so ASU goes to go to participate in the crime that INEC has to commit to install all kinds of wrong people in governance. But they are paid in that period of the horse trading and the dark marketing. So students and ASU out of the way. Labour Congress. We remember when Labour was Labour, from the days of Michael Imodu to all kinds of other people, Oni and all of them. But when it came to characters like Adam Shomon, they began to cut deals. How many times did Obasanjo increase petroleum price? He perfected the art of, settlement. And so you thought they were fighting for you, and they were entirely in another business of, taking whatever is brought. They mobilized. How many times in the last 6 months alone did Labour mobilize for strike that, didn't take off? So containment. The government has found a way. We saw when meetings were happening in front, floor of meetings in the villa. We knew that beyond the cameras, the same people who have perfected the art of settlement. So labor is contained. In the National Assembly, we saw the SUVs, all the kinds of things, palliative of 70 billion and 40 billion, just for them to add to what they already have. So the National Assembly that you have been saying no for the kind of crazy loans, the kind of the loans that this imposter government is taking on everybody. You can't believe it. Recently, the last of them, you saw the letter that went for to validate extra budget. The National Assembly is contained by what the members are given. Just share. You saw when it escaped Akpabio's mouth that members should go and check their accounts, that they've been given some token for, and then when they try to get him to stop, he then says prayer. So the National Assembly have been contained by that bribery scheme, because each of these things are enumerated as bribery schemes. Give them money to shut off. While the people they represent are thinking that they are there to fight for them, they've been settled in the form we have told you. The judges now get land gifts in Abuja, houses built in Abuja. See how much money was dedicated to palliative. At the time, billions were given to judges who are going to be sitting in appeal concerning the election, what went wrong with the election. What did you expect than what we saw? So containment, the judges were given their own share. The media, we don't need to talk about that. We knew the ownership structures around the media space until the ones who could buy everybody and everything. The media houses themselves were bought in terms of ownership and shares, changing hands. The editors in some of those places, again, they may be where they are, but they get their loyalties are plugged to where he who pays the piper. The tunes we've been listening to from the media, dictated by the prayers of the piper. When you tune through check through the channels, check through the front pages of the major newspapers, you discover that again the containment is complete, because you won't see anything amongst the things that should have been the front burner. They find a way to containment by church leaders. What else can we say? It takes being blind not to see that the private jets and private universities that are being built are all proceeds of the crime of sustaining this constitution that creates and protect corruption. The corruption you see, what do? Only to pour olive oil on the head of those who are stealing and put them on your front containment. The church, if there was a Desmond Tutu in this land, I'm sure he will not be one of those to read. Are we to talk about the bar station and all the other, organized, bodies? And so the simple thing we're saying is that all of the points of resistance have been corrupted, compromised, and contained. I repeat, all the points of resistance, ranging from student union to their ASU teachers, to the Labour Congress, to the National Assembly, to the judges, to the media, to the church leaders, have all been compromised, intimidated, and paralyzed. The few that would have been talking are now just paralyzed by the compromise of others. But there's something. There's a NINAS that separated itself from all the avenues of compromise. Forget about the individuals that may come to pretend and move away. The body, the monster that is, the big monster that is coming to take down that monster that has been tormenting all of you, has kept itself above the reach of this corrupting influence. And so there's no compromise or intimidation or settlement or containment that is in sight that could be. You can take that to the bank. And so, with all of these points of resistance contained, all of those who have lost faith, who do not know what to do anymore with their usual channels of resistance, they have converged. More will come. They are coming in torrents. You can't believe the numbers that are now on the side of that NINAS. All the attempt to contain NINAS. That will be subject of another broadcast, not yet time. You will be shocked at the names you will hear for what role they played in attempting to compromise what NINAS has become. Unfortunately for them, they didn't know that there was a compartment that they were not privy to, that they could not reach. And so, when you have locked out all of this, you are going to wake up to the kind of thing that happened in NSAS, where you didn't know who to deal with. That's where we're going. It is in making these peaceful changes that could have come from such, engagements from these points of saying no, that you now made inevitable the kind of thing that is coming upon you. The earlier we turn away from foolishness and go to take what NINAS has on the table as common ground to deal with this matter in an orderly manner. This matter will settle itself in a manner that will be most unpalatable. We'll stop it. Thank you. Yes, in the final analysis, the people of Nigeria who are living in the torment of unitary Nigeria will have to step forward to begin to join the task of salvaging themselves, saving themselves from impending doom. There's already bad weather. There's already rain falling and destroying things. But the one that is now the deluge that will come if we fail to arrest the situation. Is why we're making this short appeal to open your eyes to where that calamity is coming from. We have identified that constitution of Nigeria as the source of all your misery and the collapsing environment in which you live. And so we are pointing you to, we wanted to be able to identify who the enemy
Wait, I'm trying to come from the that
is.
opening to
The
5, 6,
enemy
7,
is
8, 9, 10,
anybody
11, 12,
that
13,
subscribes
14,
to that
15,
constitution, that 1999
And the
constitution.
black one.
It could be
okay,
a
all is
candidate
here.
contesting election. It could be political party. All the political parties in Nigeria subscribe to that constitution. It could be supporters of the candidates. It could be people who go to vote in the election under that constitution. They are the ones, but if you were looking for who, because some are hoodwinked, some are deceived. The ones who are deceiving the others are the ones who swear to defend and uphold that constitution. They know because we have engaged them. We have told them these things to say the people are dying. They grab that constitution with all their might because of the profit they make from it. They know that you are going to die. They know you are going to get more miserable. They are not explaining to you. They don't want you to know that it is because of the profit they will make for themselves. Governors every month 5 billion, 10 billion for them and their families, to which they are not on which they are not accountable to you for how they spend. In the 48 months they will be there 4 years, or 8 years if you are unlucky, 84 months, or is it 48? No, 96 months. And so those are the people tormenting you. The ones who subscribe to that constitution, the ones who swear to defend
Look at that.
uphold,
It's coming out.
the ones who go to election, political parties, all of the political parties. Now, what are you to do? What are you to do? Separate yourself. In the days ahead, NINAS will be drawing a line, will be making an altar call. All of those who stand with that constitution on one side, all of those who stand with NINAS to take down that constitution right at this time on the other side. That's what we'll find in Nigeria in the days ahead, because we can't continue like this. And the torment has come to where those who, who want to save themselves must now stand up and help take down that apartheid constitution that bring all these torments. The ones who swear to defend and uphold that constitution are committing treason against the rest of us. They're committing an offense that could be punished with any kind of punishment the mob can inflict. But they are committing treason because they are hanging on to a document that implants our signature fraudulently, empowering themselves to do what they are doing, whether it is stealing they are doing, or it is the killings they are doing, or it is the other things that they make profit from that they are refusing to do. We must separate ourselves from them. They are the enemies of the people. The other enemies are only the Fulani that come to kill you are able to get to you because that constitution is in place, still in place. So it is your twin brother, it is your nephew, it is your sister that is part of upholding that constitution, going to renewing the life of that constitution that has brought the Fulani that is killing you. If it is hunger if it is poverty that is grinding you, if it is electricity that is destroying your business or lack of fuel, whatever it is that is tormenting you, look for those you can reach, those you know their homes that are subscribing to that constitution, whether they are doing political party or contesting election or swearing to defend and uphold that constitution having won. They are the ones, they are the ones that are putting you through that torment. So by this short broadcast, just dress back, inform other people, send this information to everywhere it can get to. If you want to be a part of solving that problem, we are going to make a formal invitation and people are going to come to take the specific steps we're going to be directing in the days ahead, because the time is here to solve the problem that's been, tormenting us for decades. We have built sufficient consensus against that constitution, sufficient consensus against the proprietors of that constitution, those who benefit from that constitution, and condemn the rest of the people to the miseries they live in, so that together we will take down that constitution and arrive at new, constitutional protocols that we shall determine in self-determination, ratifying by referendums. I think we stop here.
Thank you for listening. It's my utmost pleasure to invite the NINAS spokesperson to shed more light on today's topic, defining the change we seek, personnel or structure. Please, Mr. Nadi, you have the floor. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome everybody once more. It happened. I'm in the field, and almost not coming into the meeting, but at the last minute we're able to get started. The what we are what we are dealing with right now is a system that refuses to reason, and the people that refuse to listen. Because if the people had listened all this while, they would have found better answers to the situation that is now overwhelming them. NINAS had those answers and actually made the answers available in a manner that will have solved all these problems. At the time in 2020, we rolled out the force majeure to say, let's leave elections alone and go to solve these problems. The people did not listen, the government did not reason. Now, the two sides are in distress. The ones who want to see change, the government doesn't see anything, they have no problem at all. Every month they gather and share trillion plus. And as they are sharing, the senators are sharing, the 36 state governors are sharing, now the local government chairmen too. 812 governments gather every month to share. Of course, the MDAs and all the bureaucracies they create are those all those three tiers and all those three arms. But we can see that the executive is now the head of a trinity, the trinity of executive, legislative, and judicial arms of government. What should have been the checks and balances? What should have been the separation that will make sure that everybody gets what is due to them in the system and in the union has been more or less washed away by a rapacious federal government with flawed characters in the other two arms, hopelessly flawed characters in the other two arms. You see what the Supreme Court has become. You see what the kind of even rubber stamp is now a better evil to deal with compared with what Godswill Akpabio and his Senate have become in the hands of this executive. And so, unless we become clearer in our minds to define the change we seek and the mechanism for obtaining it, we must know what we are rejecting. We must know what we want in place of what we are rejecting. We must know where we are now and where we want to get to. For those who are planning protests or revolution, whatever they call it, this is the time to pull back and define the change you seek. Everybody can see there's corruption everywhere. And you just jump out and say you want an end to corruption. How? With a constitution that creates massive avenues for corruption and comprehensively protects the beneficiaries of grand corruption by the immunity provisions, it put in place. You say you want an end to insecurity. You want an end to mass impoverishment, but you are not asking how did we come about this insecurity. NINAS has an answer that it is on account of the unitary constitutional arrangement that put the arms and ammunition on the exclusive list that makes it impossible for those who live in that insecurity to organize their own security. And no matter who becomes president, no matter how well intentioned such a person may be, no matter how desirous such a person may be to see an end to it's not going to work, because the constitutional arrangement makes it impossible. As it is with insecurity and corruption that the constitution creates and protects, so it is with all the other things that everybody is lamenting, including bad leadership, bad governance. The electoral process is centralized, so INEC can sit in Abuja and decide what will happen everywhere, irrespective of how 23 elections, presidential elections particularly. And so every single thing, we have looked at all the demands that the people who are talking about protests putting forward. All of those things they want change are flowing from that constitution. There's one of them, a politician who probably is looking towards 2027, and so he lumps everything together, change constitution, and then in the same person that price of this, restore this and that, shows that they haven't thought through. They don't know what constitution is, and they think they know. Is it by going to write another constitution over your head that they will change constitution and just do it and then proceed to another election which you want to contest in? That is on the side of those who are planning to protest. Again, on the side of the government that is now worried and looking out for how to find, just saying, oh, you can't come and start trouble now. You can't come and start trouble now. Whereas you were heartless in doing what you are doing to destroy the lives of the people. You share trillions amongst yourself. You share billions amongst yourself. You cruise around in private, and you don't care that the people who own that money cannot feed, and you think they're going to remain obedient to you. And so, again, NINAS is telling the government, the two sides are complicit in refusing to address, to acknowledge what the problem is. The ones who are planning to protest now did not listen when they went to election under that constitution that has produced this calamity they want to protest against now. Because if they had listened, there wouldn't have been an election. We would have gone into a transition. That constitution would have been out of their lives. That constitution that is responsible for everything, tormenting them, would have been out of their lives. And the government too, in 2020, December 16, we rolled out something that provided a framework, a pathway, a mechanism for addressing this problem that's now become a much bigger problem. We gave them 90 days notice to say, let us go and solve this problem. Our quarrel is not with the people in government house. Our quarrel is with the constitution by which they will have to govern, because that constitution makes everything good impossible. You can't have rule of law under a constitution of apartheid. You can't have any good governance. You can't have any kind of economic progress, because all the means of production, all the factors of production are confiscated by that constitution into the hands of this rapacious federal government that has now been joined gleefully by the executive and judicial branches. And so the two sides that are gearing up for whatever will happen from August 1. NINAS is talking to the two to say there is yet a middle ground that can be pursued now to solve this problem. But there must be a commitment to solving the problem. The ones who are planning to protest, who are not talking about that constitution, that is the source of the problem, they are as dishonest as the government that is refusing to listen to what it will take to solve the Nigeria that is now in disarray. It is the unitary constitution of Nigeria that is responsible for everything that has brought Nigeria to where it is. We are talking to the government, we are talking to the protesters to be. And so the first charge is to that government that is now sending DSS to go and arrest people for them in Sokoto and Kano. And the lunatics that are pointing fingers, the one that are spokesmen of president, pointing fingers to Peter Obi that is organizing riots. But they are no less blameworthy than the Peter Obi that went to contest the election under that constitution. Whatever happens to all of them will be so richly deserved. If this angry mob gets on the street, whatever they do to the people who have kept them in misery will be very richly deserved. Again, if the government in the kind of panic and pandemonium they brought upon themselves for refusing to listen about the constitution that's untenable, from which they've been drawing, and a fraudulent constitution that ruined the lives of the people, from which they've been drawing power, and which they subscribe to and swear to defend and uphold and govern by. If in this pandemonium they open fire like they did with the NSAS, again, human beings are going to die, maybe in large numbers. Eventually, some people may set places on fire and go wrong. And so NINAS is standing in the middle to say, government, don't say you are not told that the solution to this problem is for you to make an acknowledgement the type South Africa did in 1990 with apartheid. That is the only safe pathway left. You must now, that 5-point proposition of NINAS that says we must now acknowledge that the Nigeria that is in this distress is happening because of the unitary constitutional arrangement. The government must now acknowledge that reality, and that constitutional arrangement, that unitary constitutional arrangement, is responsible for all the agitations in the land, all the dysfunctions of Nigeria, all the corruption that is happening, all the infrastructure that is decayed, and therefore all the anger that is now looking for avenues for venting. That government must commit to decommissioning that constitution like apartheid government did in 1990. Expressly commit to the wholesale decommissioning of that constitution. That government must expressly, immediately commit to suspending any discussion relating to further national elections under that constitution. That's item 3. That government must also expressly commit to allow the owners of the sovereignties that are confiscated by fiat and brigandage into this union to go and discuss their union, the being of the union, whether they want to be in the union, and if yes, on what terms. In the 2-stage procedure listed in the NINAS 5-point proposition. And then finally, to make a time-bound announcement, they must now tell those who are planning to come to look for change by all means. They must now tell them that we are going to do X, Y, Z. It will take only one announcement. That announcement can be made inside July of 2024. That announcement can come in a matter, it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Gentlemen, instead of all this stupid talk we hear every day, people are accusing other people. Some even, the people in government are saying it's the opposition that is organizing. People are dying. They are the ones dying. People are hungry. They are the ones hungry. Are you going to suggest that they are being persuaded to claim that they are hungry when they are actually hungry? Are you going to claim that being persuaded to say that there is insecurity when they are the ones living in that insecurity? And you sit in the refuge camp of regional renegades they call Abuja, thinking you have gone to heaven where the ones you left in hell cannot reach. I'm sorry for all of you, because those places from where you come, claiming to represent people in Abuja, eventually the people you left in the mess are going to have to look for you wherever they find. If they can't come to Abuja, they are going to look for wherever. And so NINAS is addressing the two sides. The ones who are planning to protest, do you now acknowledge, will you now say loud, like NINAS is doing now, that this constitution is the problem that has to be solved? That your life is upside down because of this constitution, and therefore that your demand is an immediate transition, so that all of those things that are responsible for the corruption, responsible for the bad governance and the insecurity and all the dysfunctions we are talking about, the electoral malfeasance, it's not the electoral reform that will solve that problem. It is to unbundle that constitution, to jettison it completely, and work out a new arrangement that can work. You have 68 items on the exclusive list. The refineries, we hear the cock and bull story of Dangote and how he came about his refinery. You lock down the capacity for refining with that concession. You lock down the people's assets. All the assets for economic development are locked down in that 68 items of exclusive list. The owners of the assets are no longer the owners. A roguish, illicit federal government has become the owners of their assets. The assets that were the assets of the regions that federated have been taken over by an illicit federal government. All the power to work those assets are locked down in that exclusive list. Electricity is not rocket science. Everybody can provide their own electricity. Why do you lock down the capacity with that concession? By putting it on the exclusive list. What is there in refining? Biafra ran for 3 years. Vehicles were moving inside Biafra. They refined their petrol. Why has it become impossible for Nigeria that export 3 million barrels of crude oil every day to refine their petrol? And you sit in Abuja telling them cock and bull story about how Dangote will produce a petrol for them. You already took their oil and gas by decree away from them. You hand it over to somebody to go and refine for them. You took away the right to refine. I can find anybody can find people who are prepared to set up refinery. Why is it impossible for everybody who have the capacity to go and get license? Then you license somebody in monopoly. You took money from the treasury. Were we not here when Emefiele talked about how he gave him, how central bank gave him money and he has started paying back the money? Now he says no money was given. Now they have 20%. Now they have 7% instead of 20%. Nothing can be built on this foundation upon which you are building now. So I have no sympathy at all for the government that has to find the answer now. I have no sympathy at all for the people who are now planning to protest, because they refuse to listen to know where their problems are coming from, so that they can make a demand that ties with that problem, ties to the source of that problem. That was what NSAS did. We told them, this is the problem. This is what if you want the problem to be solved, the demand must be, how do we extinguish the source of the problem? We have identified the source. We have identified the mechanism for extinguishing that source. But the greed in them will not let them reason. They want to go and become senator and governor and president under a constitution that guarantees the misery we see. And so, to the two sides, we say, government, this is what you can do now. Because even the ones organizing the protest, NINAS is in receipt of an invitation to address the prospective protesters, the proponents of the protest. It will be on X space, that's on Twitter. Twitter space, Saturday, 27th July 2024, 7 p.m. And so, information is already all over the place, and the NINAS team will be there to address those who are planning to come and say no to what is happening to them. And NINAS will be inviting them to dress back from all of those things they've been writing all over the place. The one Isa Ebuba says he wants good governance. That's what he's coming to. He's giving the deadline. You must provide good governance. Like a lunatic. Like a lunatic. How would the good governance come from a constitution that guarantees the opposite? You were told before you went to election. You were busy mobilizing for PVC. PVC for election under a constitution in which the winner will swear to defend and uphold the atrocity that is in black and white, called 1999 Constitution. Is that not dishonesty? Is there anything we told you will happen if you went to that election that has not happened now? Why are you still unable to reason? Then we saw the 12-point demand, the one they say end bad governance. How? None of them wants to, apart from the dishonest one that put a change constitution for us, as if constitution is just another document that president can write or anybody can write in one corner and throw out. Say, okay, we change for you the type of nonsense Pablo and Olusabakoba were trying to do. The kind of nonsense Benjamin Kalu said he was going to do. And so, NINAS says to the two sides, NINAS is saying to the people planning to protest, as well as the government that is planning to contain them, that the solution to the situation is to acknowledge the problem of Nigeria for what it is and go to transition right now. That transition in place of election is the mechanism for going to the solution to that problem. If the government refuses, or if the protesters prefer to work with their ignorance that is written all over their demands right now, like NSAS demands, if they prefer to continue in blindness, where there's sight, continue in ignorance where there's knowledge, NINAS will be watching them. But when the blood will begin to flow, it will be remembered that we told them to rework their demands back to what the problem is. It is that constitution 100%, and their demands must be one in which they are saying, this is the problem, this is the solution, you must now commit. If that is what they're asking for, the government has no room to maneuver other than to put an answer to that demand. The government cannot pretend that the constitution is not the problem, because by their own action they have acknowledged it. The government cannot pretend, they cannot say, oh, we know the constitution is the problem, but allow us keep using it like that. Because the protesters should now be asking, from which instrument is the government drawing the power to govern right now? Right now. Because that constitution has been shown to be legitimate. We went to court as well as 2007. Nobody would listen. Everybody was carrying on as if they had other better plans for how to turn Nigeria to Eldorado. Look at where we are now. That $1 will be above 1,500. That people cannot farm. Every time we leave the problem, oh, let us go and get the money and give to farmer. When the farmlands are occupied by insecurity that we know where it's coming from, Fulani conquest agenda, we are not we can't open our mouth and say it, and it is because this constitution empowers them to do what they're doing that they're doing it. So you are responsible for your own damnation. You are responsible for your debts. You are responsible for your impoverishment, for refusing to reject that constitution in the manner you have been invited to. How did South Africa solve the apartheid? Were the blacks in South Africa angling to go and contest election under that apartheid? Imagine what Chris Hani would have done to any black in 1985 who decides to go to contest a little election under apartheid constitution. That is what all of you, all the political parties, all of them who are now saying they are in opposition in a presidential system, you are boasting that you are head of, you are leading opposition. Opposition to what? You subscribe to a constitution that bring death upon the people, and you say you are going to take them to production. Let those who know where to find P2B confronting with these matters. That this constitution to which him and his party subscribes, he's been in ABGA, he's been in PDP, he's been in Labour Party. Nobody knows where he will go next. He is still talking about going to contest election in 2027. And people are holding meetings, actually holding meetings with him and planning that. But as one of the videos, one of the broadcasts that were played today, the battle line had been drawn. For those who will be on the side of that constitution, all of those who subscribe, all the political parties subscribe to that constitution. All of those who have sworn to defend and uphold that constitution subscribe. All of those who are not now on the side of let us terminate this source of misery to the people, they will be on the side of that constitution. On the other side will be those who say enough is enough. Let us extinguish the source of our problems. Let us turn off this tap from which flows corruption, impunity, insecurity, impoverishment, everything. And for the government, again, we say, you know what the problem is, but you cling on to that constitution because it gives you the billions you share every month. You cling to that constitution because it gives you all kinds of things that are not available to the rest of the people. But the people are coming. Let that be what you take away from this broadcast. The people are coming. Sorry for you if they get to you before you come to this proposition that can save the day, that can avert this looming anarchy. You can't ask the people to go and endure their pain while you continue to finance 812 governments. And the people cannot be complaining about their lack of everything when they are not demanding the decommissioning, immediate transition for the commissioning of that constitution. That will be the only thing that will come. Anybody demanding any other thing ahead of that, the 5-point proposition, because you can't say, oh, go and change constitution when there's a mechanism that can compel it. Tell me what the government will say if you don't, if you put forward a watertight set of demands. Are they going to say constitution is not the problem in the first demand? Are they going to say they won't decommission, they won't accept the decommissioning as the solution? Are they going to say they will go to another election if you say you don't want to go? Are they going to say it's no longer you, the owners of sovereignty, that will discuss? Or are they going to say let us do it at our own time? If those who are planning the protest will listen now, if they want any explanation, like this Saturday in that town hall will be explaining, If any group wants any explanation, we'll be available to come to explain to them, so that they can leave aside all the other distractions that will provide the escape route for their tormentors. If they will put forward the demands that can solve their problems, then NINAS will be there to see who will say it can't be so, to see who will open fire on them. If you don't make the right demand, they are going to open fire on you, and the heavens will not fall, because they'll be standing on the authority of that constitution to do so. It will then be your fault that you made yourselves out of ignorance and greed of some who know, but who are misleading others who don't know. It will be because you chose to work with your ignorance or your greed that you are fired upon. But if you raise the question, if you raise in a unified voice the question about that constitution, if your demand is the termination of the operation of that constitution, then we can tell you that nobody is going to find any mechanism for opening fire on you, because if they do, they will be their own. They are already standing on illegitimacy and upon illegitimacy. If you raise that question and they fire on that question, provided you do not taint, provided you do not model up what the demand should be, you can't say, okay, let's put the room and put the one of people who are planning to contest the election, so that everything will be longer on the list. If you add anything to it, we leave you with all of what you are doing. If you don't add or subtract, then we will be there to see who is going to open fire on you. I think enough said. The government, this is the time to come to transition that accommodates you. The protesters, this is the time to make the demands that can protect you. If any of the two sides decide to do another thing, we'll be here to take the inventory, to count the bodies. We stop here.
Thank you. That was an exceptional presentation. Now it's time to make comments and ask questions. Please, if you have any comment or question, raise your hand or tap your mic twice, and you will be allowed to speak. Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, no hands raised. In the absence of any comment or question, Mr. Yago, please summarize the key takeaways and closing remarks. Mr. Yago, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to commend our spokesperson for that wonderful and comprehensive exposition. Taking the keynotes and closing remark, we see that the Nigerian people are moving in ignorance. They have the zeal, they desire change. They want to see the change around them happen quickly, but they are not knowledgeable enough. And it's unfortunate that when we talk about defining this change and explaining to them what the real problem is, they shy away from it because, I don't know, maybe they do not want to challenge their thought process, or maybe something that is new to them that they're not familiar with. Some of them think it's a very cumbersome thing that cannot be achieved in the immediate. They think it's some kind of fantasy, so they don't even want to go there. I remember when I raised this issue in the platform one time on Twitter, they said, let us stabilize the country first before we talk about working the union, before we talk about redesigning Nigeria. We quite agree that, yes, the constitution is a problem, but they have the different notion that we have to stabilize the country first. Whereas the process to stabilize the country is by, going after the constitution through the NINAS 5-point proposition and resolving it once and for all as quickly as possible. I thank God that it's coming to light now that we can achieve this within 3 months. So that should spark something in the minds of Nigerians. Know that this thing can be achieved because NINAS have, over the years, for the past 25 years, worked out this process by which this thing can be achieved. Some people will say, where have NINAS been? That we didn't hear about them. I was talking to somebody today, a family of mine who I was having the conversation with, and that was a question the person raised. Where have NINAS been? And I said to her that NINAS have been working out this process because it's a peaceful process. It's something that needs to take time. And so they've already done the work. For the past 25 years, they've done the work. What is now left for us now to take this work they have done, which is laid out in the 5-step proposition, and run with it. So we no longer need that ages that we are afraid of. NINAS has covered that aspect. NINAS has the answer. That's the one thing Nigerians must know at this time. NINAS knows the problem, of which many people do not even know. We are wallowing and falling and rising, rubbing ourselves like in the mud with our problems, not knowing what it is. NINAS has properly diagnosed it, and NINAS has provided the answer. So that's number one key point. And so we need to start listening and understand that this thing is not a pipe dream. It's not a fantasy. It's not something that is going to take ages to achieve. We can achieve this following the step-by-step process, following it step by step. Take a look at this proposition. It's before us. I don't know why Nigerians are shying away from it. They're not eager to look at it first. Take a look at the document. It's as simple as ABC. Take a look at it, we key into it, and see if it will not work. This is the thing that will solve all of our problems. Okay, so we must wake up to this reality. You can see the zeal, like I just said, you can see the zeal among Nigerians, but no knowledge. And zeal without knowledge will lead to fruitless effort. It will lead us to nowhere. That is the key point. Also, we come to look at it. You see, most of them are running on the mantra of P2B that says they move from consumption to production. How can that be achieved in the kind of structure the 1999 constitutional arrangement gave to us? How can that be achieved? When you don't, how can you move the people from consumption to production when you don't set the foundation for that? People who are, how can you tell people who are reliant heavily on allocation every month to go and produce? It's just like asking a salary earner to start a business. So we must go back to the foundation and address these things and address it properly. If there's a process to it, and even those who are going for protest should also look at other alternatives for which NINAS has also proposed. We are not against their protest. We are, because it's the fundamental human rights of the people, the democratic right of the people. We're not against it, but we are saying that we must define this change and know how to approach it. We're going to look at other things like conferences. All the time that Nigerian youths are wasting on Twitter saying this and that without moving from pillar to post, if they have organized themselves on Twitter space, they begin to hold their conferences there. Various ethnic groups hold their conferences and begin to deliberate on what the solutions are. So we'll continue to push, we'll continue to follow up. We will not relent, we will not resist. I know that as Nigerians continue to be adamant, as they continue to suffer because of their adamant nature, our message becomes stronger. That's just how it is. I'm very glad that people are listening now. A lot of people are tuning into it. The publications online, people are already bookmarking and saving it. So it shows that they are willing, some of them are willing to listen now. And I pray that we'll be able to achieve all of this in the long run. In no time, in a very short time, within this year, this can be achieved. And that's what Nigerians need to understand now, that this can be achieved within a shortest period of time. It's not a fantasy, it's not something that is too cumbersome that cannot be worked out. I think this is these are the key points as well as the closing remark. And with that being said, I yield the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Onyago, for that generous remark. Mr. Nnadi, we would love to hear your final thoughts before the announcement to end today's town hall section. Thank you. Mr. Nadi, please, we would like to hear your final thoughts. If you're not available or ready to make your final thoughts, Justina, please, you have the floor for announcements. Thank you. Justina, kindly unmute your mic for announcement and end of section. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone for making our time to come for tonight's clubhouse meeting. These are the announcements of our activities through the week. For us to work effectively and efficiently, we'll be having joint clubhouse sections together at 7 p.m. Nigerian time on Tuesdays like this. And on Saturdays, we'll be having the Daughters of Truth on Facebook and YouTube at 5:30 p.m. Nigerian time. Please, we are all encouraged in the immediate task of massively disseminating NINAS project materials to all our people. We are to sensitize them via the NINAS website www.ninasvoice.org and on YouTube, NINAS Voice on YouTube, where we have over 400 videos and we are encouraged to watch and share widely. For further information, you can call on the NINAS Secretariat on 0912 993155. The second number is 090 64720016. At the count of 5, this clubhouse section will be shut down. The countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Goodbye and God bless you.